who is the matchmaker? It isn't just what does their network look like? It's what is their lens? What are their own values? And ask that matchmaker about their own life. Nobody does that, but that is the key to the success of any search.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning into Second Act TV. Today, I'm so happy to welcome a new content expert to Second Act, relationship expert and matchmaker, April Beyer. April, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Silka. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am just thrilled that you're here. I mean, you have been a successful matchmaker, very successful matchmaker for over 20 years. In fact, you're known as, I think, the best of the best, as Dr. Phil coined it. You've been appeared on his show, of course, along with lots of other mainstream media outlets who regularly seek your advice on the topic of love and relationships and dating. So again, thrilled to have you here. What I'd like to concentrate on for our audience, as you know, on Second Act, we speak to, well, over 50, many of whom are starting over again, trying to find love again, and are extremely, extremely frustrated with the whole dating scene, especially online dating. And I know that with your company, Level Connections, you actually address that. So you've kind of merged the traditional matchmaking with 21st century dating. So let me throw it over to you, April. Let's talk about the industry of matchmaking. What does a matchmaker do today? What do we need to know?
Oh, it's a lot. What matchmakers do today is what they've been doing for centuries, right? It's one of the oldest professions around, but it has evolved in some cases, and it needed to evolve because the matchmaking industry has once been for, the very wealthy, people who had exhausted every single avenue. And, in the beginning days of my career, 2 decades ago, it was, oh, I guess I have to go to a matchmaker because I'm not doing it on my own well enough, or I've exhausted all those avenues. And then it sort of started to morph into I get to hire a matchmaker because I'm in that sort of economic status where I have the opportunity to invest financially in a search. And then it's kind of had its ups and downs with the advent of dating apps. So matchmakers are truly, like, in its highest form, matchmakers are meant to dive deep into their client, get to know them, understand their quirks, their upside, their downside, understand them holistically, and then literally be on a consistent search and communication. And if you're really advanced in the field, you should be advising so that when you are creating that match, you're actually being the glue. You are helping people to begin that relationship with those first beginning days. The first 90 of every relationship are very crucial. So I, as a matchmaker, always get in between myself, the client, and the woman who's dating my client. And I really try to be that third point of that triangle to help them communicate and help them get started on a better note.
So who is your client? Is it men or is it women or is it both?
Men, as a matchmaker, men are the clients. So men come into Level Connections and they become a member. I also have private clients that I personally search for. Women are invited to join our network at no charge. But even though women are not our clients, and I'll tell you why in a second, that doesn't mean that we don't actually honor and listen to and respect what it is they're looking for. Because in order to make a great match, it has to be even on both sides. So even though the revenue model is we have men who are coming to us, we specialize in that, we don't have a beautiful, profitable, amazing business if we don't have great women in our network, if we're not listening to the women. So even though there is not the female client, it does feel like once she's matched with a client of ours, it does very much feel like she is 50-50 in that partnership and how we work.
See, I think that in and of itself is so interesting. For some reason that didn't, when I was reading up on you and just the industry as a whole, it's like it's the men that pay for this. It's so traditional in that sense.
Well, and I remember, early on in my career, I remember women saying to me, but April, I'm empowered, I'm successful, I'm highly educated, I run my own company. Why won't you work with me? Why are you disempowering women and only empowering men because you're taking men on as clients? And my response to that is, what makes you think that your money makes you empowered? The female empowerment is noticing when you're being noticed. Like, I really honestly believe that as women, we are kind of making that first move, not because we're throwing money at something or walking up to somebody in a bar or a restaurant. We're making that first move by allowing ourselves to be seen and received and smiling and engaging with someone, right? And I had to pick a side. I come from very traditional matchmaking. In the beginning part of my career, I ran a very big matchmaking company. I was not the owner of that business. And we had I would say, 70-30 ratio of women to men. And although that sounds great for the men, it wasn't awesome for the women because we had very successful, empowered women coming in as clients. And if we didn't have enough men to introduce them to, or the right men, that investment went down the drain. And it was a very difficult and stressful job. So after spending 6.5 years there, I did leave to start my own company, and I focused on the male driven business model because I really love men. I love communicating with them. And I wanted to give women a break. I wanted to say to women, look, if you can just get into my network, let us get to know you. If we find the right man, we will call you. So you have to get into your faith and you've got to get into your patience in order to do something like this. It's a mindset.
Boy, it's just so interesting. And that was another question that I had when I reading about all this is how do you find everybody, and how do you network with other people? I know you have your network now you're LA based, but don't you work nationally?
Well, yeah, I think when you do podcasts and television and radio and social media, your reach is bigger. And with the technology that we've embedded into our process, we can be everywhere. We have clients out of state if they fly in or maybe they fly to meet someone. So it is nationwide, but I happen to be located in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So if a man calls and I'm interested in doing this, what's the process?
It's a deep dive. It is an interview where we want to make sure that that man is somebody who is ready, who is looking for love. What does his life look like? I take a 360-degree kind of holistic view of him. And then we put him through our profiling process. So what I've created is an actual proprietary interview process that is done in the comfort of his own home. And he can go through these questions. Questionnaire is often likened to the Myers-Briggs for the heart because it really goes through, it's dynamic in nature, and it mimics and reflects how the interview with me would be. And that way we're able to see on the back end, we're able to see what are those high level values? What does that lifestyle of that gentleman look like? And then we're able to use that as searchable criteria and data within our network, which is essentially built so that I could speed up the process. The matching process isn't automated. I've just created something where my life is simplified, and some of that sort of, in the weeds things that most matchmakers get into, which is why they charge so much. I've kind of wiped that out so that all of the focus of myself and my team can be on what we do best, which is consulting and advising and looking at those introductions and then being able to send those in an easy, more streamlined way. But for me, even when I'm working with a gentleman privately, and I still do, that is my favorite part, Silka, of my job, which is sitting down. Sometimes, it's at a cafe. Sometimes it's at my office, or I've gone to my clients' homes and we'll sit in the backyard with the dog and we're talking about his life and his previous marriage or the wife he lost a couple of years prior. And it's so gratifying. I would tell you that part of my job is actually even more interesting and gratifying than finding the match. Although that's wonderful and it is a byproduct of what we do, a lot of what we do is the growth. Like, how are you growing through us, right? And getting to know these men on such a personal level has been such an honor. I have some of the most amazing male friends because of this business. And I'm heading to a wedding this weekend of a client that I worked with, long past him meeting this gal. I was on the phone with him like several hours a week advising all the way up until engagement. So you really get close with people, you like them, you trust and you respect them, and you develop a lifelong relationship, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be a good matchmaker.
You probably would.
No, because I would enjoy that. I don't know if I'd be a good matchmaker, but the process that I love interviewing. I love learning, people's inner secrets. So I'm sure you have lots of great stories. For those listening, men and women, and I don't know on what kind of large scale this would actually work. Maybe give us some insight on that. But you said something key is the process of getting ready. How do you address that, and how can somebody do that even maybe without you, or just know what that process entails
To get ready for matchmaking or get ready for love?
for love?
Mm. Oh, there's a lot to that. I actually wanted to post something today about don't try to write your relationship once you're in it. Write yourself before you get into a relationship. To me, when you're ready for love, you're neutral. You're no longer angry. You're no longer in grief. You're no longer frustrated, and you're not lonely. My mother used to say, don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. And I say, don't date when you're lonely. And that seems so antithetical to what everybody does, right? And to me, it's you shouldn't date because there's a hole in your heart. You should date because there's space and there's room and you feel like you are able to receive and you have a lot to give as well. You know what your boundaries are. You do not have a difficult time communicating your wants and needs. I know you've had conversations about communication before. Um, I'm a big believer in no one should be misunderstanding what you're saying. Like your communication is everything to getting ready because a lot of people are missing the boat in their dating life because they're holding things back. They're subscribing to this myth that you shouldn't talk about certain things on first, second, third
Right,
dates. And
right.
I say, no, when you are authentic and honest and coming from a good place, there are no questions or sharing that is off the table.
So somebody said, "Oh my God, this sounds great to me. I want something like this." They can, of course, I guess, call you. Or what if they're out looking for a matchmaker? Period. What should they beware of? What should they look
Mm.
for? How do you get involved in this process?
Well, they can always some people book strategy sessions with me, even if they're going to another matchmaking company, just so that I can sort of educate them on the industry. But for today, you have to know your brand. You have to know your location. You have to understand like matchmakers are actually marketers, right? If you give us something wonderful to market and you are realistic and you are open, and you have a open mind, a thick skin, and an open heart at the same time, and you are willing to not be led, but you are willing to have the advice and counsel of an expert, that's a good place for you to be. But if you're fighting your matchmaker, if you aren't in reality, if what you're looking for is like needle in a haystack, don't go to a matchmaker because you think they're going to find that needle in the haystack, right? We find what you find. We just have more of it because this is what we do 7 days a week, pretty much. But a lot of people use this as their last resort or as my matchmaker is a genie in a bottle.
Mm.
She is the super glue. She is the fix it person. They use matchmaking as a crutch, and a crutch is not supposed to get you to walk. It's supposed to support your walk. So even if you go and you invest in a matchmaker, you still have to live your life. You still have to own up to your own responsibility of getting out there, meeting people organically, and also what are you doing on your dates? Are you somebody that if you go out on a date, is your matchmaker going to hear positive feedback and reviews about you? Because what that does is that actually propels and pushes the matchmaker to make more introductions for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Interesting.
I would look at it. It's that's why they call it it's a business of love, and it's a very serious business and it's not for the faint of heart. You got to come in and invest your emotions and possibly your financial investment. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're coming down to about the last 3 minutes or so. April, what haven't I asked? What would you like to get across in this segment about the industry of matchmaking?
Maybe sort of the fact that it is not a regulated industry. So you have to be very careful. You have to do your due diligence because it isn't about a shiny website. It isn't really even about how popular that person is. It is about their network, but it's also about their own integrity. So if I were going to a matchmaker, I wouldn't just go for the biggest, because sometimes when you're going to the biggest agency, you are now in a numbers game, right? You have less contact with the people you're working with. You want to know that the person you meet with at first is the person you're actually going to be working with along the way. And that's very rare in the industry. And also, it's about who is the matchmaker. It isn't just what does their network look like? It's what is their lens? What are their own values? Because you can talk until you're blue in the face about what you're looking for and still feel like you're not being heard. And it's simply because the lens of that person in that agency is not mirroring yours. And ask that matchmaker about their own life. Nobody does that, but that is the key to the success of any search.
I was just going to ask you, what is maybe one of the most important questions to ask?
Yeah, it isn't so much, well, one is, how long have you been here and how many relationships and marriages have you put together and what is your process and what does your own life look like,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you successful in relationship? And it's not enough that you like them. You also have to respect how they do this. Why are they in this business? What was the impetus to be in this industry? And those are just questions that a lot of people forget to ask when they're interviewing.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, lots to think about. I mean, this is certainly a great alternative to doing it your own and dealing with frustrations of online dating. And we're going to be talking a lot more to you. In fact, I want to bring you back for a more tactical segment on, when we refer to it here, how do you know that you're ready to find love again? And how do you know that the people you meet are ready as well? So April, we will link to all of your information to your website so people can contact you directly. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to know to get in touch with you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and say hello, DM me. And if you are interested in being in our nationwide network, you can simply go to Level Connections and apply. And for men, you can also go there to apply to be a member of ours.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, April, and we'll see you on our next segment on Second Act TV.
Thanks, Nelka.
Thanks for joining us. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you have a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.